We continue on the march to Blizzard stupidity here on the Cow's channel. Welcome to A Cow's Opinion, where we're going to talk about a terrible quality well, it was for the quality assurance and the more public-facing members, but it was a very terrible, quote, demoralizing question and answer meeting, where basically it means that a high-ranking official goes up there and you can ask them questions. This is A Cow's Opinion, where I make my opinion, and if you don't like it, don't bother to hate, because it's a moot point and does not matter, because it's A Cow's Opinion. But apparently, Blizzard Entertainment are extremely dumb. We've been talking about how this entire opinion and news show is kind of based, just basically off of Blizzard making screw up after screw up. And we are having a problem because Blizzard President Mike Ybarra has recently had a meeting. If you think you recognize Mike Ybarra, then he is the president of Blizzard. Now, he was the guy in charge of this meeting, and unfortunately, it did not go well, because Blizzard staff began tweeting what they called a disappointing show from leadership, and did not like his statements, and it is solidly across all of Blizzard right now. So on Thursday, game developer has been reporting a detailed account of the meeting, which was questions and answers that intended to address an employee satisfaction survey. Now, Blizzard has had a lot of problems, including its stack ranking process for evaluating employees. We've covered that on a previous video. That's where you say, okay, at 5 to 10% of your people have to be rated as poor, even if everybody on your team is a rock star and doing amazing. And because that affects their bonuses, their future job prospects, and even their job if they're rated at the bottom of an... Look, the third string guy on a Super Bowl winning team is still amazing. You're not going to rate him as poor because of that. If they have actual things they need to work on, okay. But just doing it for the sake of rating a certain percentage of your team poor, it's just really dumb idea in tech industry that you have to keep churning your team over and over. But it's mainly done just so that they can, hide dissatisfaction. But aside from stack ranking, they talked about reduced profit sharing and the return to office mandate. And man, if you think of two issues that go together poorly, it's getting less money and also having to commute again. Oh, that's not good. So Polygon, where we're reading this, and shout out to Nicole Carpenter, at Sweet Potatoes is a kind of a cool name, by the way, on Twitter, who have described the low morale that followed the meeting. So their spokesperson, Andrew Reynolds, has confirmed many points, but said that the company stands by Ybarra's statements and leadership in tough moments. But Blizzard's not really having tough moments, because you see, why one of the things they talked about was the reduced profit sharing plan, which means that workers will receive just 58% of their promised bonus. It's a shock, because just 2 weeks ago, not last week, pardon my words, Activision Blizzard announced quarterly financial results that it called a kickoff to a strong financial performance in 2023, and in fact, they said that their operating income nearly doubled, 90%, as everything generated more than $100 million in net bookings. That's not gross, that's not before you pay your taxes and your employees and your mortgages and everything. That is net. So it's a little weird to suddenly say, hey, by the way, I know we said we had really strong corporate earnings and we did amazingly well, but we're going to cut your bonus in almost half. That's pretty terrible. Now, Ybarra has been talking about this and told the employees that the executives aren't making much more money. They're living in a myth, and that the same cut applies to them as well. But here's the problem. Somebody who, as this article points out, a functional tester in Santa Monica is paid between $14 and $26 a year, but the chief of staff is over $250,000 a year. And these numbers are pulled from job postings on Indeed, so you know they're accurate. They're coming from Activision Blizzard themselves. Now, yes, 58% cuts is half for the executive as well, but let's not pretend that you can't do a lot more with 58% of $250,000 than 30 to 50K, which is about what this is. So it cuts and it hurts a lot. An extra 25 grand or less is a lot worse than an extra $100,000+. But that's not the only time that pay came up, because they also have the return to office mandate. As you know, a lot of, especially tech companies, are trying to get their employees in for at least 2 to 3 days a year. And it requires workers at Activision Blizzard for the 3 days a week after 2 years accommodate work from home. Now, King, which is the mobile division, is already returned to office, and every subsidiary is making its own decisions, said another spokesman. But it really sucks to cut somebody's promise. Not even, this is what you might get. This was their promised bonus money. And it sucks that you have to then go back to the office and have that expense for childcare, gas, commuting. I'm getting so upset I'm coughing from my COVID. I apologize. And everything else. And then say, oh yeah, your bonus is cut in half, and now you gotta have the commuting expense again. Now, is this a third or a second spokesman? No, the first spokesman. Blizzard's trying to do damage control so much they keep having different spokespeople speak. I don't understand why. Now, Blizzard spokesman says that Blizzard's going to honor current long-term remote agreements and make exceptions for medical or religious regions. I understand the medical. I'm not sure what religious reasons you could have to work remotely, but sign me up for that. Customer service workers will continue to remote as well. And Reynolds says, we will make decisions at times that not everyone will agree with, like any other business leader with a team of over 4,500 individuals. That is a cop-out answer. Oh, well, there's 4,500 of us, so we can't make everybody happy. Nobody expects you to make everybody happy, but taking cutaway bonus money after you've announced really great first quarter and didn't give poor guidance for the rest of the year, and then saying, by the way, you're going to have 3 days of commuting expense per week now, is garbage. Now, the workers have interpreted this as meaning that if you don't like it, go away and quit. And Blizzard confirmed to Polygon that Ybarra's statements were correctly quoted, but added that Blizzard is, quote, listening to the team's feedback. Now, not only does the article explain in this next couple of paragraphs this is something I believe I touched on in our last video. Suddenly changing the rules like this is a great way to get people to quit. Because if somebody quits, that's a lot less damning than you, and a lot cheaper than you having to fire them and deal with the HR policy and deal with the paying severance for however long it is and the bad publicity. You could say, well, they just couldn't. We went in separate directions and they felt that they were not being appreciated, and we're sorry that they left. To quote an economics professor, can we agree that if people quit, that's less ugly than firing people? That is Matthew Kahn, who has been writing about this. And it's a strategy that some of these tech companies are using. They want to reduce headcounts. They see right now, tech is the only thing really getting massive layoffs. Everything else in the American economy is on fire and doing really well. Can't find enough workers. So these tech companies are like, man, it's really bad if we fire 5,000 to 10,000 people. What if we can just make them leave? And then we can get the rest of the headcount down over natural attrition. He also, Ybarra, talked about some of its disciplines not being long-term roles. And a Blizzard rep confirmed, but said it wasn't specifically referencing any roles and wasn't targeted at the QA or the quality assurance, for those of you who don't read this stuff regularly. The people who test the games, or the customer service, which are the people that help you on forums and emails and phone calls. But the developers of these companies don't see it that way and took it as an insult to quality assurance and customer service, which are two fields that are rightly undervalued in the video game industry and also usually the ones to unionize first. These roles, while essential, are vulnerable to low pay and crunch and treated as if they're expendable. Ybarra's comments, workers suggested, underline that misconception. Now, this is why I've said recently, the thing that is keeping massive amounts of unionization at tech companies is that the developers themselves are still usually treated decently well to very well. They get paid a lot, they have a lot of perks, and they don't feel the need to unionize. But that's why all the unionization efforts are with quality assurance and customer service workers. Now, 2 of Activision Blizzard's have successfully unionized. Diablo 4 studio Blizzard Albany, and the Call of Duty Warzone studio Raven Software. But that is for the quality assurance departments only, not the developers. If the developers started unionizing, you can damn sure believe the company would be dealing with this a lot differently. They're both represented by the Communications Workers of America and are trying to contract bargain. There's been a massive influx of social media posts from Blizzard workers since Thursday, and it is seen as a form of solidarity and not usual in this industry. Now, the article is concluding by reminding us that the California State Civil Rights Department has filed its lawsuits, as well as workers have been protesting, calling out Bobby Kotick. Excuse me. So angry I can't even talk. They've walked out, work stopped, but he's still there. And honestly, probably the biggest argument to let Microsoft buy Activision Blizzard is that it's the one thing that might finally get rid of Bobby. They pay the troll and he'll go away. But yeah, as I've said, unfortunately, a lot of our news broadcasts have been built off of Activision Blizzard. And that sucks because it's not good news. I love to sit here and talk about all the wonderful things that they're doing. They're just not doing a lot of wonderful things. They're doing a lot of garbage things as they, I don't know, deal with years of stupidity and then trying to cover it up while still doing it, which is weird. But it is what it is. So, let me know down there in the comments what you think about this. Does this even surprise anyone anymore? I mean, taking away promised bonuses and calling you back into the office and insinuating that you're not a long-term for the company, but, oh, we don't want you to, we're not firing you, but, you know, we're not going to shove you out the door, but we might set you on fire, open the door, and just not help you until you leave. That's Activision Blizzard now, the company that probably got me into gaming more than anything else when I was a kid. And that's disappointing. Let me know what you think below, and play more games, because games are awesome, and you deserve awesome. I'll see you guys next time. God, I gotta find some good news for the next one. This is depressing.